I went to a rave with a random guy I met in an AIM chat room when I was 15. Oh boy.
This is not good. Yeah, don't meet strangers, especially not when you're a teenager.
Welcome back to Delve Deck Stories. We are going to be diving into some teenage stories today, so let's get started. Today's first story is from Rachel, and it's What's Something Most People Don't Know About You from the original Delve Deck. I discovered my furry kink when I was 12.
Okay.
All right. I have always really loved wolves. I loved seeing them at the zoo, loved fairy tales about them. I thought they were such cool, magical creatures. I mean, they're real creatures too, but...
Yeah, I think they should say she feels like they're magical. I feel that way about manatees, you know?
When I was 8, I was in ballet and we did a Red Riding Hood recital. As soon as our teacher announced the theme, I asked if I could play the big bad wolf. My teacher seemed kind of surprised. Usually every girl wanted to be Red Riding Hood and no one wanted to be the big bad wolf. The recital was a letdown. I got to wear wolf ears, but otherwise I just had to wear a black leotard, tights, and ballet shoes. I kept the ears though and wore them any chance I got, which annoyed the hell out of my mom.
I feel like this is about to turn into like the Republicans' nightmare.
Yeah, it's a gateway costume. My parents got divorced when I was 12, and Halloween that year happened to fall on a dad weekend. Every Halloween before that, my mom had insisted my older sister and I dress up in super girly Halloween costumes like princess or angel or something. I asked about being a wolf a few times, but my mom always said, girls do not dress up as wolves for Halloween.
What do you mean? Yeah. Anyone can dress up like a wolf on Halloween.
Yeah.
There's girl wolves.
Yeah, there are female wolves. It exists.
In the wild.
How do you think other wolves come to be?
Yeah.
That year, I told my dad I wanted to go shopping for a costume with my friend from school and asked him to give me money for a costume. Dad gave me $60, no questions asked. And my friend Lucy's mom took us to the costume shop. Dad did not seem to care what costume I got or have any opinion on girls dressing up as wolves. He's either lazy or progressive. Either way, way to go.
Hell yeah, Dad.
Lucy wanted to dress up together, so I told her we should be Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. She agreed to this, and I found an amazing wolf costume that was perfect for it. It was a full body suit and wolf head mask. I was so happy trying it on in the shop. We then got an almost perfect full moon on Halloween, so I howled at the moon as we went loading up our bags with candy from all the neighbors. It was the best Halloween ever. I felt totally euphoric.
I feel like a full body wolf costume for $60. You got a great deal.
That is a pretty good. I feel like those are like hundreds. Like those are full on mascot type uniforms. I wore my costume for the rest of the night until my dad finally said, "You need to take a shower and get ready for bed." When I got undressed, I discovered wetness in my underwear. I didn't know what to make of it, so after we went to bed, I asked my sister about it. She and I shared a room at my dad's house. I asked what it means if your underwear gets wet, and she goes, "Did you get your period?" I said, "No, it's not blood." She goes, "Oh, so like turned on? Did you make out with a boy? What boy did you make out with?" I said, "No, just something I saw on TV." She rolled her eyes and said, "If Dad finds out you were watching R-rated movies on cable, you're going to be in trouble."
No, he's not. Yeah. He's going to be like, I guess I watched that.
Yeah. I guess it would only be in trouble if you're ordering some movie online.
Yeah, it depends if you're putting a bunch of pay-per-view on the family credit card. Okay.
I mean, that was the after hour Cinemax. I asked if she was going to tell him, but she said no. I stayed up for a while thinking about the wolf costume and what being turned on meant. I hadn't heard of furries or kinks. I just know how happy and excited I got dressing up as a wolf. When I watched romance movies with my sister, I felt bored and none of the love scenes ever interested me. I didn't spring this kink on anyone until I was much older, but when I finally met other furries as an adult, I found out a lot of them also discovered their fetish as kids, which made me feel a lot less weird about it.
That's great.
I don't know much about furries. I feel like in San Francisco they had the furries at the Armory.
Oh, sure, yeah. You know? Yeah, I've only been to the Armory for a comedy show. Okay. So not kinky, not sexy at all.
Our next story comes from Matt, and it's what's the biggest metaphorical bullet you've ever dodged from the Deep Dive Beach Ball? I tried to run from the cops after I got caught smoking weed.
Good luck.
I grew up in a small mountain town. When I was in high school, my friends and I would drive up to the top of this peak and then hotbox the car. I now realize how dangerous this was, driving on windy roads stoned, but we were stupid teenagers and assumed we were invincible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dangerous. Don't do that.
One night we were smoking in my car and a cop pulled up next to us. The cop got out of his car with a flashlight and started to approach. We were like, oh, we're totally screwed. One of my friends was already on thin ice with his parents and started yelling at me to drive away. Without thinking, I put the car in drive and sped off away from the cop car. oh boy, this is not smart. This is like, frontal cortex has not fully developed yet. You're like, oh, adrenaline running. You're like,
I can definitely outrun the cops when you're somewhere between, probably.
And potentially a car full of smoke. And you're like, I gotta look. Yeah. As I was peeling down the mountain roads, we were laughing about how we had just run from the cops. I don't know if I mean, they were probably laughing because they were high.
Yeah.
I would be pants if I was in a car with someone and they were like, all right, peel out, and they just ran from the cops.
I'd be so scared.
And I was thinking this would be a great story to tell at school, but then we heard sirens behind us. We all started freaking out. I sped up, but then the lights started approaching quickly. The cop was chasing us down the road. I was driving as fast as I could, but then another cop showed up in front of me. Apparently the guy called in for backup. I was trapped and had no choice but to stop my car. Oh, come on.
This is so stressful. Like, if you're a teenager.
Like, I'm assuming if you live in a mountain town and it's small, like, everybody knows everybody. I can't imagine this escalating too badly, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, it is a metaphorical bullet. Like, apparently this person dodged it.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a happy ending. Also, from the cop's perspective, I'm like, you're going to cause this car to fly off the road.
Yeah.
That sounds dangerous.
Also, like, you're not going to get very far, as opposed to like a straight path where you're like, all right, we're just speeding down.
You're not outrunning a cop down a mountain road.
I mean, as we've clearly learned, there's at least 2 cops in this town. When the cops knocked on my window, I rolled it down, marijuana smoke billowing out of the car. He told us all to get out of the car. They shine lights in our eyes as if they didn't know what we were doing. Have you all been drinking or using drugs? One cop asked. We lied and said no. He looked unconvinced.
He's just smelling weed. He's like, oh yeah, really? Yeah.
And he started searching my friends. Then the other cop asked me for my license. I was so scared and sure I had ruined my life. I was going to get arrested and my parents were going to kill me. I handed the cop my license and he looked at it. He hesitated for a second and then said, I think we're actually fine here. The other cop gave him a confused look, and he just said, yeah, they're fine. What senator's kid is this? You know?
Yeah. Okay, Prince of Mountain Town.
I was in shock, but obviously not about to argue with him. He then went into a long spiel about how dangerous these roads were at night and how we should never try to run from the police again. Good tip I've ever heard from the cops. We were all so terrified that we had almost been arrested. We just nodded and told him how sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, officer.
I'm sorry for smoking weed, officer.
We were all so terrified that we had almost been arrested. We just nodded and told him how sorry we were. Then he said, it's fine, I get it, we were kids too, but you have to be smarter than this. With a kind of knowing look, then he just let us go. We could not believe our luck when we got back into the car. It wasn't until later that I found out the police officer's wife was pregnant and my mom was his wife's OBGYN. Okay. Your mom's literally a lifesaver.
Yeah.
I'll never know if those things were connected.
They were.
But my guess is he took one look at my license and decided to just let me off with a warning because he knew my mom. I've never told her this story and probably never will, but I'm thankful she unknowingly saved me from getting arrested that night.
Good for you, Mom, I guess. Also, though, I'm like, this cop just let these kids drive off. You, like, know they're stoned, and they're just like, well.
I mean, like, even so, I'd be like, all right, we'll escort you. Like, we'll make you follow us to a certain point to the house, and we'll drive off, you know. Or we'll do it, you know, a block from your house so that your parents don't see.
Small towns. I don't know.
Small town. But also, if I ever saw that cop again, that cop would be like, it'd be one of those, like,
you're like, I quit doing that.
Yes. You're like, don't look at my eyes.
Yeah. That's very lucky and also very scary. Yeah. I feel like being a teenager, at any time I did something illegal, I was just terrified.
Yeah. Our next story comes from Melinda and it is, who is the worst person you ever dated? And it's from the Venting edition. I dated a painfully boring popular boy for clout in middle school. We've all been there.
Yeah. Boys dated me in middle school for sure.
I had an ugly duckling to swan type transition in middle school. I lost my baby fat. I traded my chunky, out-of-fashion glasses for contacts. I learned to apply makeup, etc. By the time I entered 8th grade, I looked totally different than I had when middle school started.
Honestly, like, that's not fair. I feel like you're supposed to stay ugly until at least 15. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Within the first few weeks of 8th grade, a girl in my class bounded over to me in the cafeteria at lunch and goes, "Guess what?" I asked what, and she said, "I heard Sean Preller likes you." Oh.
Okay.
Wow. Here we go. Heartbreak. This was very surprising to me because I did not know Sean. I just knew of him. Sean was a hunky, popular jock kid who was into cars and sports.
Hunky, no boy in 8th grade is attractive.
Yeah.
I feel like girls take a while, but boys, it's like, it's bad pretty much all through the teenage years.
I can attest. He'd failed at least one grade, so he was in our grade, but a little older than us. If you looked up himbo in an encyclopedia, you'd find a photo of Sean Preller, but he seemed like a complete idiot.
He's a Ken doll.
Yeah. I'm not even sure how Sean knew who I was. We were not in classes together because I was nerdy and in advanced classes, and Sean definitely was not in any of those.
Sick burn.
Ooh.
All right.
I stared at the girl sharing this info and was like, he does? How does he even know who I am? She said, I don't know, but Sean is friends with my boyfriend and he asked him to ask me if you would go out with him. My friends who were sitting with me and hearing all this news were like, you have to go out with him. He is so hot. He looks like a Backstreet Boy.
Which one though?
Yeah, but also not all of them aged very well. So, every girl in my class had a crush on Sean because he was so dreamy, but I hadn't even considered Sean. It was like a cat considering a dog. I recognized he was great looking, but I barely felt like we were in the same species, let alone two people who could date. Well, we'll find out. I said, yeah, okay. Tell him I will go out with him, and gave the girl my phone number. I wasn't sure I actually wanted to date Sean, but I also felt like I could not say no with my friends around me acting like a Disney prince had just proposed to me. Sean called me after school and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. I told him I would and agreed to meet him for a movie that weekend. He held hands with me in the hall at school all week and ate lunch with me, but talking to him was painful. We had nothing in common, but everyone was paying attention to me because I was Sean Preller's girlfriend. I had gone from total obscurity to feeling like a celebrity. The movie date was very awkward. Sean was beautiful, but also very boring, and mostly wanted to tell me about an old Camaro he and his brother were fixing up so he'd have a car when he turned 16. He yammered on endlessly about transmissions and pistons while I nursed a DQ milkshake, dying of boredom.
This is such a bizarre conversation for an 8th grade date.
Yeah.
I guess maybe if his family is into cars, then he's probably into cars. But
Yeah.
I'm like shocked that you talked at all. Again, this is just so far from my 8th grade experience. I find it so unrelatable. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah. During the movie, he made out with me.
Oh my God.
Which I think was supposed to be thrilling, but I found it sort of gross, and the more time I spent around him, the less his looks made up for his conversational skills. At school the following week, he wrote me a note calling me Sweet Pea. No.
Sweet Pea's not.
It just feels like a condescending thing. But he spelled sweet wrong, so instead it said Sweat Pea. No.
Gross.
The spelling and grammar skills were atrocious, but when I told my friends I wasn't feeling a connection, they were like, you're crazy. He is so hot. Not everyone is so good at spelling. You're being a snob.
I mean, you know what? Not everyone is good at spelling, so.
This feels like a
I mean, you
moron.
just don't have a lot in common, and he's really into his car, even though he's like 14 or something.
I feel
15.
like she's learning a lesson about relationships way early on in her life.
Yeah.
Which hopefully be very useful going forward. The following weekend, Sean invited me to a party at a popular girl's house and then asked if I wanted to have sex with him at the party. Whoa!
What? We're in 8th grade.
Whoa!
This is an unrelatable story.
I feel like this kid had a mustache and a beard and had a deep voice.
Yeah.
I had never even been to second base. I was most certainly not interested in having sex with this boy or any other boys. Good for you. I told him I felt like I was too young for that. Yes, thank you. He said, but we're boyfriend and girlfriend. That's what you do when you're boyfriend and girlfriend. You have sex.
Not when you're 13.
Yeah. After I turned on the sex, he spent most of the night at the party ignoring me and talking to his jock friends. In school that Monday, I told my friends I wanted to break up with Sean. They pointed out that this would be social suicide. Sean was so popular and that he was the only reason I was getting invited to cool kid parties and eating lunch at the cool kids table. I told them he is boring and we have nothing in common. They all disagreed with my decision, but I was tired of hearing about football and timing belts and trying to enjoy his gross, slobbery kisses. He doesn't know what he's doing. When he asked if I wanted to come over after school to watch him and his brother work on his car, I told him I think we should just be friends. He goes, does this mean we aren't going to have sex? Yeah, sorry, I don't want to have sex. He said I should let him know if I change my mind. I stopped getting invited to hang out with the cool kids, but I was so happy to get rid of Sean, I didn't care. My friends were all very disappointed in me. You need better friends.
Yeah.
And I hope you got some. But
everyone sucks in this story.
Yeah, and you are holding true to your values.
Good job.
Yeah. But also, if having to date a guy like Sean was the price of admission to being cool, I was perfectly content being an unpopular dork. That's a good moral of the story.
Yeah. This is an important lesson that sometimes being an uncool dork is really cool.
Our final story of the day comes from Brandy, and it's what seemed harmless to you as a kid that you now look back on in horror from the original Devil Deck. I went to a rave with a random guy I met in an AIM chat room when I was 15. I didn't even go to my first concert until I was 16. A rave sounds intense.
Yeah, it sounds scary at 15.
Yeah.
Also with a random
There's a random in a chat room. Hopefully there's a real dude. My family got our first home computer in 2002, and I was instantly hooked. Whoa, 2002. That is so long ago. I spent hours searching the internet and playing computer games. My parents probably didn't realize how much I was able to access because they didn't moderate any time on the computer at all. My favorite thing to do was go into random AIM chat rooms and chat with strangers. One day, one of my friends was over and we went into an 18+ chat room. Giggling together, we watched people talk about doing things to each other that we'd never even heard of before. Then someone asked us, ASL.
ASL is a big throwback.
Yeah. Age, sex, location. Yeah.
That was the big thing to ask strangers on AIM. Wow. Did you tell the truth in chat rooms?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, well, you know. We hesitated because we knew we weren't supposed to be in the chat room if we were kids. So we responded, 18. We immediately started getting private chats. Most were just creepy old dudes trying to get pictures of us. Sounds about right. Mm-hmm. But a few people were younger, or at least claimed to be younger, and asked if we wanted to have cyber sex. They weren't younger. They weren't younger.
They weren't. They just lied.
Yeah. We tried our best to participate, but usually ended up blocking people once it got too weird. One guy, though, Patrick, seemed sweet and just wanted to chat. We found out we all lived in the Bay Area, and after my friend left, I continued to talk to Patrick. I started chatting with Patrick every night. He was 19 and studying philosophy at Berkeley, which I thought was so cool. Okay, if Patrick really is 19 studying philosophy of all things, like I feel like the real philosophical conundrum would be, should I be chatting with young girls on the internet?
I think she did say she was 18.
If he truly is who he says he is, then I feel like, you know, he's not a good philosopher.
He's just a dumb 19-year-old kid. If he even is that, who knows?
Yeah. He already thought I was 18, so I kept the lie going and told him I was going to SF State. No, you can't. You're too close. I said I was also thinking about studying philosophy and pretended to like everything he liked. I felt so mature chatting with him. Then he started asking me questions about where I like to hang and party on the weekends. I told him I went to house parties because I had seen that in the movies. Oh boy. It's not going to end well. Then he asked if I'd ever been to a rave. Not sure what to do, I just said, no, but I've always wanted to. He responded, you should come to one with me this weekend. Oh no. I had learned about raves in DARE. Oh man.
DARE was a class that you had to take to learn about, I can't remember what drugs, alcohol,
I don't know.
Something education.
Yeah.
It was just a don't do drugs thing.
So I knew they were full of people drinking and doing drugs. That scared me a lot, but I didn't want Patrick to think I was a loser, so I told him it sounded great. Gosh. I asked if I could meet him there, but he said he didn't know the location yet. Apparently these things change locations every night. He told me his friend had the hookup, so they would pick me up and take me to the rave. I was so nervous, but terrified to seem uncool. Patrick thought I was an 18-year-old college student who liked everything he liked, and I wanted to be that girl. So I agreed. I was worried if Patrick picked me up at my parents' house, they would catch me and I would get in trouble. So I gave him my friend Rachel's address and told my parents I was spending the night at her house. I walked to her house and waited for Patrick on the corner. We had never exchanged photos, so I wasn't really sure what to expect, but in my head, he was gorgeous. Oh boy.
This is not good.
A few minutes passed and then a beat-up pickup truck came around the corner and 2 college-age kids in the front seat. A guy who looked like Seth Green with dreads asked, yeah, I hesitated. Hey, I'm Patrick. This is Sid. Okay. Dreads?
If he looked like Seth Green.
Yeah. He referenced the other guy who was wearing neon and looked like he hadn't showered in weeks. So, not exactly the man of my dreams, but I got in the back seat and Sid drove off. On the drive, Patrick offered me a joint. I took a small hit and immediately started coughing. Patrick gave me a disapproving look, and I realized in that moment that all my lies were about to catch up with me. Mm-hmm. There's beers under the seat if that's more your style, he said. I thanked him, opened a beer, and sipped it. trying to seem cool even though it tasted disgusting. Yeah, it's one of those things you grow into.
You grow into it, but it doesn't sound like this is your life yet, and it shouldn't be, and that's okay.
Yeah. Sid drove like a maniac, and there were no seatbelts in the back seat, so I was hanging on for dear life. Oh my gosh. We were going down streets I'd never been on before, and I was starting to realize I'd made a huge mistake. Just now, I had no idea who these boys were or where they were taking me. Both of them were smoking weed, drinking beers, and paying very little attention to me. I felt so small and stupid. Finally, we pulled up along a street near some warehouses. I got out of the car and anxiously walked with Patrick and Sid, who were smoking another joint and no longer offering me any. I could hear electronic music and heavy bass in the distance. We got to the door, and Patrick and Sid showed the guy at the door their IDs. I froze. I didn't even have a driver's license yet. The door guy held out his hand for my ID, and I frantically tried to be like, oh, oops, I forgot my ID. Can I still come in? Oh my gosh. Now I had no idea what to do. Patrick was ignoring me and walking ahead of Sid. I think the door guy took pity on me and yelled at them, hey, your girl forgot her ID. You want to take her home? Sid rolled his eyes and looked completely exasperated. Probably pissed his friend had brought a child to their cool night out.
Yeah.
Patrick pulled me aside and whispered, did you not bring your fake? I remembered we had talked about having fake IDs, but that was one more thing on the long list of things I lied to him about. I guess I forgot, I said quietly. Patrick looked so angry. It's fine, I can figure it out. I felt like I was about to start crying and I didn't want to be around him anymore. You sure? Patrick asked. Yep, I lied again. I guess I'll chat with you later, Patrick said, and left me standing outside.
Just like alone. Even if she was 18, this is not okay. But also she probably doesn't look 18.
Yeah, she's 15, probably looks like she's younger than 15. And you're going to leave, even again, like chivalry is clearly dead.
No chivalry in 2002.
But the idea that he'd be like, all right, cool, you're good. All right, I'm going to go party.
Yeah.
And then he just leaves her. To anyone watching, never do this. Then I really started crying. I was 15 years old, completely out of my element and alone. The door guy noticed and came over to me. He just left you? What the f***? That's not cool. Okay, chivalry, coming back. Door guy offered to call me a cab. I didn't have a lot of cash on me, but I decided I just figure it out later. This guy, not all heroes wear capes. The door guy's cool. He saved the day.
Nice.
I took a cab back to my house. I had no idea what I was going to say to my parents. Maybe Rachel and I got in a fight, but to my surprise, they were out on the lawn talking to the cops. The cab pulled up and my parents rushed over to me. Where the hell were you? My mom yelled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was crying. My dad paid the cab and thanked him for getting me home. Apparently, my parents had ran into Rachel's parents on a walk that night and learned that I actually was not spending the night. I also hadn't filled Rachel in on my scheme because I was worried she'd tell me not to go. So when she was asked where I actually was, she had no idea. So my parents called the cops. Understandably so. And sounds like a good friend because she would tell you not to go.
And you should listen to her.
Mm-hmm. My parents were understandably furious and I got grounded. I didn't tell them I had gone to a rave. Good. Just that I went on a date with someone I met online. They were horrified and my unsupervised computer time was taken away from me. I was still able to mess around on AIM at my friends' houses and didn't really learn my lesson about chatting with strangers, but I never tried meeting one of them in person again.
Yeah. Don't meet strangers, especially not when you're a teenager.
I mean, this is definitely one of those horror stories. I mean, not as bad as it could have been, but certainly getting yourself in a position where you went to a warehouse in some place in San Francisco, like with two random dudes who clearly can't take care of themselves. I mean, it is scary.
Yeah, I'm glad this turned out okay, because I think there have probably been people in this situation where it didn't turn out okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's always like a story that you hear about like, oh, so-and-so went to go meet someone online and they were never seen again.
Yeah, you know? It's very dangerous. Don't do that.
That's it for today's Delve Deck Stories. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you heard today, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out some other videos we've done before. And if you have any stories that you want us to read, go to share.delvedeck.com and share your own stories.